Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Champions. Now, here's your host, former Dallas Cowboys great Preston Pearson, number 26, along with co-host Cowboys superfan Nathan Ross. Here we go.
And here we go. We are back. We've been off for a little while. Had to take care of a few health issues, but we are back, and you should be glad you're with us. We got two of the Dallas Cowboys' greatest players right here, and we're going to talk some football in a second. Okay, let me tell you quickly what happened. Why I had to take this immediate, it was immediate too, by the way, a hiatus. I had hip replacement surgery.
Oh, wow.
And this was the second one. This one was on the left hip. About a year and a half ago, I had hip replacement surgery on my right hip. So it was just something I had to do. Most of it was from being old, number one, and number two, football. When you play this game, everybody gets hurt at some point in time. And the key to all of that is you got to take care of yourself once you're out of the game, because things like this will probably prop up. Some of you may have seen the video of Jalen Hurts, a quarterback, lifting, 350, 400 pounds on his shoulders, doing a squat. And they were in the weight room. They were promoting him on and pushing him on, and he was straining and pushing and going on. Let me tell you something. He's 5, 4, something like that right now. But I'm telling you, once he turns that around and he's 64, 67, and in my case, I'll be 80 years old in January. Let me tell you something. That's going to be a problem for him, and if it's not his hips, as in my case, it's going to be in his knees, maybe his back, maybe his shoulders. So be proud of what you did, but understand that there may be a problem for you, Jalen Hurts, or any other player down the road. My guests, I'm sure, have had injuries throughout their careers and may have some right now. We're going to talk about that too. But for now, let me introduce you to my co-host. My co-host out in California, longtime Dallas Cowboys loyal fan, not crazy, I said loyal fan, Nathan Ross. Nathan, how you doing, partner?
Man, Preston, I'm doing fantastic. So great to be back here with you. Seeing you healthy again was really the most important thing. And I mean that. So great to see you back. But just excited to be here with these two iconic Dallas Cowboy players, including yourself. So let me say three. This is just an amazing podcast. Amazing to be here, and it's amazing to be back.
All right, quickly, if you would. Yes. I said loyal, longtime Cowboys fan. Tell us about that. Where'd you come from? How did you get involved with the Cowboys?
You know, I was born out here in Southern California in Whittier, right by Los Angeles, and all my family were Ram fans. But when I was a kid, I watched Roger Staubach, on a Thanksgiving Day game, and completely changed my life sports-wise, So I've been a Dallas Cowboy fan for 47 years, and I've just been loyal to that cause. I went to training camps, got to meet Everson Walls over in 1988 at Landry's last year. So I've always been a part of Cowboy football. Had season tickets for a while to the new stadium, so I'd fly back every now and then and go to the games. And so I have such a love for Dallas Cowboy football that will never, ever go away.
All right. So you said you had a chance to meet Everson, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Had you ever met
awesome.
Tony, our special guest?
No, I did not get to
Okay.
meet Tony because they went back to Coach Johnson. They went back to Texas to do training camps, and so '89 was the last year that I got to be there, and so I got to see Troy and Bill Bates and all these wonderful players. But no, I did not get to see Tony. But man, I love the way he played football. A big fan of him.
Okay. So let's introduce our very special guest. Originally, we had a total of 4 Dallas Cowboy players that were going to be with us today. That was going to be a dynamic show. But we have 2 of the greatest, 2 of the best players that the Cowboys have ever had that still don't get as much recognition as they should. But they are here, and I personally appreciate them being in studio with us. Let me introduce on the far right over here to me is the great defensive tackle, Tony Casillas.
Wow.
Tony.
Man, I'm in royalty
what's
right
up,
here.
Tony?
Hey, what's going on, Nathan? I think we were talking about this when we come on the air that you said you were a big Everson Walls fan and a big Tony Casillas fan, but all we saw was all the pretty boys.
Oh no!
Trakeman. Who else you got back there? So I got to give you a hard time.
I see he got Troy.
Hey, you got Troy. I don't see this guy next to me, man.
I don't even see a defensive lineman.
Exactly.
Man, you guys are doing me wrong.
We know defense win championships. That'd always be the narrative.
You're not kidding. You're really not kidding,
Also,
Tony.
We didn't make the supreme list.
Man,
We didn't make the supreme list.
on your screen on the left, by the way, is the great number 24 from the Dallas Cowboys, Everson Walls.
Wow.
How you guys doing? How you guys
great to
doing?
have you,
Glad to
Everson.
be here,
Yeah.
man. This
Yeah.
is going to be pretty amazing. You can't have too many guys on here, Preston. That's when you start stepping into the law of diminishing returns. All right? This is all we need right here.
That's
Two
the
is
closest we
enough.
get to a locker
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
considering,
We don't need 2 24s, okay? We got 1 24, we're good.
That's
We're
true.
good.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Just in case you folks didn't know, we were expecting, hoping anyway, to have a couple other Cowboy players on the show with us. But to this moment, we have not been able to make that connection. So perhaps down the road, we'll get them to come back. Meanwhile, we're going to enjoy these greats with us today.
Absolutely.
They are in
So
studio with
excited.
us, by the way. Let me say this real quickly for Nate. He's been a long time number 12 fan. Should I say it?
Oh man, please do. That's my football hero. That's my football
You
hero. Yes,
got
sir.
number 8 behind you there, but at some
Well,
point in time,
my police station over there is where I have all my Roger Staubach.
Ah,
So
there
That's
you
right.
go.
We-
There
we-
you
my
go.
football
Hey.
station has all Staubach, his fat head. I mean, I have just so much
Once
fun.
again, no Casillas and no Walls. Once again, you
Not
can brag
yet.
about all
That's
of
not
those
true.
guys.
That-
I'm sending you an 8x10, bro. I'm sending
I
you
will
an
go right
8x10,
up.
bro.
And
meanwhile,
expect to see it the next show you do, right?
Man.
Trey, can we
Done.
pull up
Done.
some of those photos that I found on both Tony and Everson? Can we go to that right now? All right, there we go.
Look at that.
That's what you look
man
like when
right
you're young,
there.
right there, baby.
Look at that.
Got a lot of hair. Look
the
at that.
flowing locks. Oh my God! Look at that guy.
Look like Antonio. Oh,
Sexy.
there you go.
That was with the Falcons.
That's when I was moonlighting as a porn star, I think, because I had that mustache
You
going.
look like you were singing in the club or
That's
something.
straight out of the 70s, 80s, right there. Oh,
Man, look at it.
killing me,
He
man.
was even handsome in college.
Look at that.
Nobody's handsome in college.
Man, I look like like a lot of Chicanos in that picture.
You look like somebody's dad right there, bro. That's okay. Now
that's
you
when
look
you were with
defeated.
the
You look
Jets.
I was
defeated.
with the Jets. I was probably
You look
a little
defeated.
pissed off there because we were probably, that wasn't a very good year there. But
So these
Wow,
are
look at that.
some of
Nice,
Tony's
nice.
accolades when he was
That's
at
good
the
stuff.
University of Oklahoma. Wow.
Good stuff, boy.
I'm telling you, man, this
College
just
football.
read through some of those things that are up there.
Defensive
and
player
you
of
can
the
imagine.
year.
Tony,
so
what
here's
did
my
you-
claim to fame. My claim to fame.
Wow.
When people asked me when I drafted, I said I was the second player picked behind Bo
That's
Jackson.
right.
Wow.
And all of
That's
a
right.
sudden, like, Bo Jackson. They
That's
know who
right.
Bo Jackson is.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Second
That's
player
nice.
overall.
There he is.
And here is Everson Walls.
Look at that
This is
handsome
when-
devil.
That's when
Is that high
afros
school
were
or is
in.
that at Grambling State?
That's when
Grambling State,
afros
isn't
were.
it?
That's my
Man.
Grambling State photo. Yes.
That
Well,
is-
look at that.
Yes,
Fro,
yes.
and
Oh,
look at
that's a
these
classic
Look at
right
that.
there.
This is with the Cowboys.
Wow.
This is Thurman's Thieves, as
I'm
they
trying
call
to look tough
themselves.
down there,
That's
but
some
I
dogs
can't.
right there, man.
The best guys in that
32.
picture are Bill Bates and Victor Scott. They look scary as hell.
Okay, we're going to name them. Don't go away now. Start at the right corner. Who is that?
That's me.
Bottom line.
That's me at the bottom.
On the
trying
bottom
to look
shelf.
tough. I wanted to smile, but you're not supposed to smile on the photo.
That's a nice suit.
Okay,
too.
next in the middle is
That's the man, Dennis Thurman.
Dennis
Wow.
Thurman.
That's awesome.
And
From
next
USC.
to
Ron
the left,
Fellows is to
Ron
Dennis's
Fellows.
right.
Ron Fellows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
little
you go
cornerback.
above Ron Fellows, Ricky Eastman.
Now that's one I don't know.
Yeah, Ricky came
Ricky
from the
Eastman,
Tampa
this
Bay
is top
Buccaneers
left.
to join us in 1985, and he was one of our, we called it 4-0 defense. That was our third down dime
okay.
defense called 4-0.
Okay.
Next to Ricky is Victor Scott.
Right in the middle.
Victor Scott was a hell of a
That
player.
nice looking
That's-
He
black
played
striped
monster.
suit.
He played monster. Look at the pinstripe suit he's got on. He
Man,
looks cool.
some gangsters right there, baby.
Dexter looks so doggone cute and handsome. Look at him.
Dexter
he
with
looks
the
like
hat
he looks
on the
like the
right.
baby face. He looks like baby face.
Yeah, going back up top to the
Yeah,
left.
he does. Yeah, he does.
Who is that?
Bill Bates, man. Bill looks like he.
That's Bill on
like
the right
He's got a
top.
Uzi.
He
Bill
look like he's
got
ready to
a
go
Uzi.
kill somebody.
That's right. I'm telling you,
He
bro.
does.
And
He's
far
gonna make a
left,
hit on
That
someone.
Michael Downs, my man. That was the
Michael
guy.
Downs.
What a player. Oh,
You can say what you
26,
want
Michael
about
Downs.
Thurman's Thieves, but Michael Downs was really the leader of our secondary. I got to tell you.
Man, that's
but believe it or not, Everson Walls did not win a championship Super Bowl with the Cowboys. It was with the
New York Giants.
New York Giants, and
my New York
You got it,
experience
though.
was better than yours.
You got the ring, though.
I finally got it.
Got
baby.
the ring.
Finally got
That's
it.
right.
And he
That's
made
why.
the
That's why I
tackle
was doing that.
saved it. He made the tackle that saved it on Thurman Thomas.
No doubt, no doubt. Parcells said he probably would have gotten caught in the parking lot. So it's good. It's good I cut him off when I did. My wife loves this
question.
picture. She thinks this is a cute picture. So
I
I
like
don't know
those
how you
jerseys.
guys got
I like
that.
That's a great
red
picture.
Man, my wife
Yeah,
loves this
that
picture.
is.
I don't know what it was about that. She said I'm cute on that picture.
I got that off the internet somewhere.
He's such an unbelievable player too, Everson.
Appreciate it, my man. That's why you got all those
Yeah.
pictures of me up all over there. Thanks you. Appreciate you, man. I see him over your shoulder somewhere.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I started it, but I just couldn't pass that up.
I'll tell you this, real fast. I pretended I was you when I was playing defense at the park, Everson. So I
you
didn't
were-
pretend I was him.
He's
I
saving
didn't
So
himself
you
now.
were slow.
pretended I was
So you're
you.
telling me you had no speed. That's what you're telling me.
No,
Yeah,
I played
that's
some
what you're telling me.
DB. I played free safety in high school. I played starting flanker, and I was on all special teams. And I was
That
only
sounds like
16 my
me.
Senior year.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
so
me.
I was a free safety, but I just when I went to the park when I was a kid, it was Everson Walls.
I
mean,
hope
I
you
was
caught some
telling people.
interceptions. I hope you caught some
Of
picks.
course I did. Of course I did.
I never heard
Absolutely.
anyone pretending to be a defensive lineman. Man. It's like that's just not.
Nobody talks about that very much.
That's
I'm
interesting.
sorry.
Yeah.
It's just but now these days you make $100 million.
It's hard to take that double team.
Better start
I don't
talking
want to take
about
on
it.
that double
Yeah,
team.
he wants to be Warren Sapp. He wants to be Warren
Exactly.
Sapp. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what we need to do now is, since we're talking about all of your successes and the Super Bowls and things like that, we have people that tune into our shows, and we set aside a segment that we call Ask a Pro.
Okay.
So we got two pros here, and Nathan,
Three.
take over if you would, and
got it.
let's go to the question that one of our viewers asked of our guests.
You got it. And I want to thank our listeners for sending these in for us to give to you guys. So we just want to say thank you from the show for doing this. And on this segment of Ask the Pro, and it's for all three of you. This question is for all three of you. It's how special was it to win a Super Bowl? From Jack Riley from Murrieta, California. Preston. let's
All
start.
right, thank you, Jack. We appreciate that. Are you asking me to start
Yes, I
this
am.
conversation?
Yes, I sure am.
Okay. Now, remember this now. I go way back. My first Super Bowl was 1967, the third Super Bowl ever.
Okay.
Super Bowl
Against
III.
Joe Namath
Wow.
and the Jets.
Wow.
I was with Baltimore
That
Colts.
is crazy.
Okay.
And we were heavy favorites.
You were in that game?
I
did not know you were in that game.
I was in that game.
Man, such
First
a
of all, you
disappointment.
said you just turned 80. Whatever you're taking, man, I want some
I
of that.
swear.
'Cause
You're not kidding.
you-
Tony,
I'm
you're
just
not,
saying.
you're
But
not
anyway,
joking.
You are a good man, Tony. I'll give you that $50 in an hour or so. I appreciate it.
No,
though.
minus
Thank
minus the hip problems. Yeah.
you. Yeah, minus the hip problem. What was it like? First of all, I was a snot-nosed rookie at that time. A snot-nosed rookie that came from basketball. I played basketball in college, okay? So my experiences going into training camp was out of this world. I mean, my locker was three or four cubicles down from the great Johnny Unitas.
wow.
And you talking about a snot-nosed rookie, played basketball, and now you're looking at one of the greatest quarterbacks in the world, and I'm bending down trying to tie my shoes, and I'm shaking just because he's there. Just because he's there. And that was an experience that I'll never forget. But getting into the Super Bowl and watching all these great players, Johnny Unitas, Lenny Moore,
Yeah.
Raymond
Yeah.
Berry.
Man, that team had so many names.
had some great
Legends.
Bubba
So
Smith.
many names. That's what I was going to say. Bubba Smith.
Bubba was in the same draft class that I was in. He was the first overall draft person in that class.
Wow, those are some names right there.
Big time names. And I was a 12th round draft choice. They don't have 12 rounds anymore.
Yeah,
do
they don't have
Seven now.
Seven
Seven now.
Seven draft choices.
Man,
So,
how old am I?
that transition, that age, going from that. The Super Bowl in 1967 was 68. Was strange. Joe Namath, we were heavily favored. Snot-nosed rookie, really not knowing anything about the aura of being there. But I'm telling you, the moment I got out there, you kind of froze. I kind of froze. It was like, wow.
Wow.
You were thinking too much. You were
Wow.
thinking too. You
Wow,
were thinking way
you know.
too much.
This is the Super Bowl. Like I said, snot-nosed rookie,
Yeah.
not knowing anything about football and audiences and fans.
And no
all
college
that.
football. You never played college football.
Did not play college football. All of that. For me, it was. I was awestruck. I was
Scared?
scared. Yes, absolutely scared. But I can tell you this: after the years went by, once I got into winning one with the Steelers, and especially winning one in Dallas.
Yes.
The feeling, the aura, the thing that goes over your body at that time was, for me
Elation.
anyway, similar to when I had my first child. It was
Wow. That's saying something. No,
Puts
that's
it in
saying something,
perspective.
Preston.
Yeah.
It sure does.
like, wow,
Great
I did
metaphor.
that.
I say I'm capable,
part
I'm
of that.
capable of
Life
this.
is good. Life is amazing.
So for me, that's the way it was in my first Super Bowl. Okay, for you guys, what do you think, Everson?
I think with me, because I had a couple of disappointments. We lost in '82, the year of '82. Then we lost in the year of '83 to the Redskins. At the
Ooh.
time, the Washington Redskins lost to Joe Theismann and those guys, Riggins and those guys.
Yeah.
That's
Commanders now.
Yeah, Commanders now.
Yeah.
And mine was unique as well because I got it in a different place than where I started. I didn't get it with the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Just like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. New
you
York
didn't get it
Giants.
your first time.
Right.
And I ended up getting it with a whole other team that I picked. And I think with mine was it was so prideful because I chose the Giants.
Right.
When I couldn't win with the Cowboys and Jerry
Why
Jones.
did you choose the Giants?
I saw Flipper Anderson score a walk-off touchdown against the Giants, and he ran through the all the way through to the end zone out of the stadium, and he came back in after he scored. It was a walk-off touchdown. And I looked at that team. Of course, you got Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, Leonard Marshall. You looked at that. You looked at that
Yeah, that
defense.
is, Tony.
You look at that defense, and I said, all they need is me. That's what I said. All they need is me, because that team, for some reason, we brought a culture to the Cowboys, back to the Cowboys. The Mel Renfro, Herb Adley when he came to the Cowboys and y'all won the championship.
From Green Bay.
When I saw that team, I was thinking they had a culture of getting interceptions and turnovers. That whole culture was gone for about 10 years until myself, Michael Downs, Dennis Thurman came along. And we brought a whole new culture to that team of getting turnovers. We led the league in interceptions at least 3 times. And so that's something that the
impressive.
Cowboys had lost. And so when I saw the Giants, with the pressure that they could put on the quarterback,
LG.
I told Parcells when I met with him, I can't understand why you guys aren't getting more turnovers. This is the meeting that we had. How are you not getting more turnovers when LT has a doggone quarterback running for his life every down?
So true.
And so,
So true, Everson.
I told him this, no lie. I said, look, if you bring me here and you let me start, I didn't want to be coming off the bench. I said, you got to let me start. If you let me start, I can show this team how to get interception. And if we do that, we can win a Super Bowl. That's
He was talking about
exactly
putting
what
you
I
on the
told
bench?
him. Well, Parcells is one of those guys, you got to show me first.
Okay.
You know, he's
gotta-
that guy. He don't
We
believe
got to
any
prove
hype.
something. Yeah,
He
well,
don't
you
believe
did that
hype.
in Dallas,
That's what I like
and
about him. He don't
yeah.
believe hype. And I told him I could show him. So, of course, I went in training camp. The wide receivers were marginal. So it was a really opportunity for me to just shut those guys down. And by the time the preseason was over, of course, I was starting just like I was trying to do as a rookie with the Cowboys. Except for Parcells believed in me earlier than Tom Landry. Tom took 5 games for him to start me. I was leading the league in interceptions from the bench.
11. Wow.
I was leading the league in interceptions in 5 games from the bench.
Did Gene Stallings have something to say about that?
Oh, Gene wanted me to play.
That's right.
But Tom didn't trust me because he doesn't trust rookies. So it took him 5 games to start me. And so, but with Parcells, by the time the preseason was over, you're the starting corner. And everything I told him I led that team in interceptions. We got more interceptions. LT chasing quarterbacks all over the damn place. And I'm just back there picking them off because he created that. I can say that he created that for me.
And that got you
And that
on
got us
the
all the way
cover of
through.
Sports Illustrated.
That's right. And that's how I ended up getting my Super Bowl.
MVP.
My only Super Bowl, unfortunately.
That's
No.
okay. It was
It's hard,
fortunate.
it's hard to get one.
That's right.
But you were a ball hawk, man. This guy right
Yes,
here.
he was.
He balled
One of the
out.
greats.
That's for
One
sure.
of the all-time
Yeah,
greats.
yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
It was all over
How
the
about you?
place
How
back
about
then.
You know what?
Yeah.
My story was a little different. My journey in Atlanta, kind of forcing a trade of not really knowing if my football career, my football life was kind of like at a standstill. It's like, when you're in a toxic environment, and the Falcons, that was the organization back then. And, coming from a high-powered college program like
Sooners.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
winning a national championship
Right.
last year, it's like, oh, this is the way it's going to be in the NFL. Well, if you get drafted high in the NFL draft, it's a good chance you're going to go to a team that's not very good.
Yeah.
So it just become mundane and kind of more of a just everyone has to grind it out, man.
Yeah.
That's part of the game and part of any job. But it got to the grind where people, players just were looking forward to the end of the season when we still had like 6 games
That's
left
tough. That's tough.
because we're out of it, right?
Man.
Yeah.
And so I just like,
That's
and
tough.
And you're getting the hell beat out of you. You're out there. You got pride in your play, and there's not really any. There's not really any the fruits of the labor, so to speak, like winning.
Yeah.
And we never did that 4-12. So, when my 5th year in the National Football League, I got to come to a crossroads. Like, I want to continue playing football, because, and I kind of forced a trade with Atlanta, and I ended up coming to Dallas because Jimmy has familiarity with me and Dave Wanstead.
Thank goodness.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Nathan.
Yes, thank
but I had
goodness.
no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen. All I knew is that it was a different environment. It's kind of, Dallas and, Dallas and New York is totally different than going from Atlanta to Dallas.
Yeah.
And Dallas was struggling with the time. Had some that hadn't won any games, and Jimmy Johnson's a coach. And so when I got to Dallas, I'm like, man, this is totally different. There's an excitement. Guys like yourself and guys before the team I was on in the 90s, they kind of laid the groundwork, the hype and the brand and everything. Fans expected you to win, and when you went out there, you put the star in your helmet. And I was like, this is like putting on Superman uniform, man.
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt like that.
Let's go.
And then after that, I was just my first year with Dallas. You talk about players. We really didn't have the who's who like you did, and when you played when you were with the Jets.
Y'all almost did have a no-name defense.
We did.
Yeah.
But even Troy and Emmett and Michael, they really hadn't established themselves. They were a young team.
The triplets, not yet there yet.
Yeah, and then obviously when our defense was so loaded, we really didn't know any better. It's kind of like as a rookie, you're just like you go out there and it's like, okay, I just need to learn the ropes. But really, we're not all Russell was the number one pick.
Yeah.
So you really didn't know what to expect. So everything just kind of came together. And,
Very underrated defensive.
oh yeah, well,
Very
like you said,
underrated.
no name on
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
We were number one defense in 1992, and no one knew.
That's crazy.
And we ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So we were loaded, and I'm like you. I'm just looking around when we won the NFC Championship game, and I'm thinking, am I really on this team that's going to go to the Super Bowl? Because
Might be something here.
what you went through the first 5 or 6 years of your career, you had it was like that's the least thing that I'm ever going to dream about. I mean, you dream about it, it's going to happen playing in a Super Bowl, and being able to play on that team, and just the unselfishness of the guys we had on that team, because maybe they just we didn't understand how good we were.
Did you have a heavy rotation?
Yeah, we had 8 guys in the rotation, and it was just relentless. Like the boxing, like the MMA fight, So, just hitting you, when you're tired in the fourth quarter and some guy comes off the bench, freaking knocks you out.
Too.
I mean, there's a difference in the first quarter and the fourth quarter, right? Anyways, but that was just it was just one of those. It was a vivid memory, and I think for us, for anyone that's played in the game and been on a team, the accomplishment and the guys we had in our locker room, and just a group of guys, it was magical, man. It was magical.
So in this room right now, you were in what?
I got 2.
2 Super Bowls
3.
that you won, right?
2 that
2
you
that
won.
you
2
won.
that I won, yeah.
Were you in 3?
No, I wasn't
No,
in 3.
okay.
I left. I left, and I was a free agent.
Kansas City,
Kansas City, and then playing with the Jets.
Okay.
But like Everson was talking about, it's like he got 1. It's hard to chase 1, man.
Yeah.
It really
Real
is.
stuff.
Yeah.
Real stuff.
It sure
So,
is.
2, 1, 2. I was in 5. You were in 1. You were in 2.
Yes.
You went 5.
I was in 5.
God.
With
Wow.
3, but above.
Don't you wish
participated
the
in 3
team of
different teams.
the contemporary team of today could
Yes.
say that? I just had to get that out.
Okay. Yeah, I won't comment on that one. But we are going to talk about this. Regular season the last, 3 years? They've been 12 and
12 wins.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Once they get to the playoffs, seems to be a problem. Obviously, they don't go much further than division or championship game. Have they ever gotten to the championship game?
No.
Haven't gotten there, right?
They haven't.
Okay, what's the
been a while.
problem? What is the problem? Is it coaching? Is it attitude? What is the problem in your opinion? Understand, this is an opinion,
Yes.
and we have the right to do that as former players that have been there and done that. So, personally, I think it's an attitude thing, a misunderstanding of how your play, study, and focus has to increase. I believe there's at least 5 seasons within a season. And once you get to the Super Bowl, It's every game is a season. And your focus, training, study, all of that has to increase from game to game. Your thoughts?
You know, I see how you break it down. You talk about 5 different seasons in that one season. I wouldn't give it that many seasons. I'd give it.
Okay.
I would give it 3 because I would look at it like this: first half of the season, second half of the season, and then the playoff Super Bowl run. If you're fortunate enough to do that, I don't want to count that high.
Okay.
5 is too many for me. I want to just be simple enough to try and first part of the season, second part of the season, and with me it was like that because when I came in as a rookie, my first part of the season was hectic. You know, trying to figure out, you know, what I could do, how good was I?
Yeah.
I knew I was good, but how good was I behind my defensive line and the pressure that flex front four gave me?
Oh man.
You see, you got to always give love to your boys like you give love to your offensive line. Yeah. I give love to my defensive line.
Are you just saying that because I'm here?
Maybe.
I could have used you. I could have used you later on when the big boys left. I could have used you, trust me.
Too tall and
things got
boy.
tough in 87, 88, 89.
Man, that was
And so
fantasy front.
When I look at my rookie year, the second half of my season was more solid.
Right.
It was less exciting.
Okay.
Which is the way I want. I didn't want all that excitement. I didn't want to be giving up touchdowns, but then here I come and save the game with an interception. Well, I created that problem that we were in. And so during the second half of the season, I was more solid. I became one of the better defensive backs in the league second half of the season because there is a difference. And I was ready for that run through the playoffs and hopefully through the Super Bowl, but we lost in San Francisco. So to me, I've always looked at it as only 3 parts to a season. And that's because that's the way my career went, my first game went, or my first season went back in 1981.
That Joe Montana's
That was
group
Joe and Dwight Clark and
we don't
got a whole
talk
bunch
about Dwight Clark and all that.
Dwight was a good man. I miss him.
That makes me angry when we start talking about that.
Hey, and Drew Pearson almost took it to the house on that. If this would be in this day and age, horse collar, we're at the 30-yard line already ready for a field goal. So,
well, that just lets you know, man.
Everson
This is a team game, bro. This is a team game.
Yes, it is.
You can brag all you want about this and that. Joe Montana wins that game before we even got to the catch by Dwight Clark. There are moments when Joe was saved by his defense. That defense that they had at that time, Ronnie Lott. They had some hell of a players. Carlton Williamson, their strong safety. They had a hell of a squad that no one knew at the time was going to run 4 straight.
Other than Ronnie and a couple other guys.
They did not realize just that Dwight Hicks.
Maybe
Hacksaw
Reynolds.
These guys were underrated, and they were the ones, to me, that allowed Joe to even get in position to make that play in the end zone. I had my third turnover at that time, 5 minutes to go, if I recall. I thought that was it because we were in scoring position when I got my last interception, and I'm thinking we're going to drive in and score another touchdown. Well, they had a pass interference call that was not called on Doug Cosby, and they ended up kicking a field goal instead of getting a touchdown. So my turnover ended up getting them a field goal. We didn't get a touchdown.
That's big.
And that left them in range. And then here we go, 3-something to go, and that's how the whole thing kind of marched down to that. And still had time, as we talk about, with my man talking about how Drew, if he breaks that tackle, or even if Danny
doesn't fumble the ball.
And we got Raphael Septien ready to kick it through. So there's always, you've been through enough losses.
Yes.
Big losses. Not like huge numbers. I mean, the magnitude of it was big. To where you say, if we could have, would have, should have.
Yeah.
So I had to stop thinking like that a long time ago.
And you overcame. And then Everson, you are tied with Ed Reed 5 times.
He's tied with me.
Exactly. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Everson, about it. But yes, you have won the interception title 5 times, which is a record. And
well, 5 for the Cowboys, but 3 for the NFL. Yeah, 3 in the NFL.
Man, that's crazy. When you look at your career, Everson, and what you
Unbelievable.
did. And it's great to be able, when you're doing podcast shows, like to talk about that, because people
Forget.
they forget about that.
Some stuff
And
runs
when you
together.
start
A lot of
looking
stuff
at your
runs together.
resume and how great you were,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a great player.
If you could do
great
that,
teammate.
you would.
Yeah,
Pat
exactly.
yourself on
You'd be
the
in the
back,
Ring
you
of
don't know
Honor,
that.
and you'd be in the Hall of Fame. But for me, I think it's the same thing. I think for us, that when we made our run was the off season. I mean, the off season was very important to us.
Yes.
That's kind of what back then, and it was different. Guys wanted to stay around each other, and I think that's another thing. Is like being around guys that you like being around.
Yeah.
Because you've been to different teams, and there's just guys that just don't buy into that.
Yeah.
It's a lot to be said for after work, and okay, let's go out and have a cold beer. Let's sit around and talk to each other. I mean, there's some guys that just go home and like they don't even be around their teammates.
Right.
I mean, that's what.
Right.
So to me, that built a lot of personality, a lot of trust, kind of getting to know about guys. But I think for the off-season program for us, that was very important. That was one season.
Yeah.
And then training camp was brutal. We weren't out 1,000 oats. I guess Jimmy thought it was just too nice out there.
Yeah.
It
But it was hot
degrees.
as hell in San Antonio.
Oh,
man.
hell yeah.
Like
Like,
Austin.
That's what I'm saying.
It was
Austin,
hot, man.
and we just pound on each other, and we do all kinds.
It was
of,
too hot. I used to go visit you guys. It was
yeah.
way
And
too
you're
hot.
like, what are these dudes doing?
It's crazy.
You didn't do that, right?
I stayed there. I went back inside. It
You
was
couldn't
too
even
hot.
sit on the
Yeah.
sidelines because, I'm not sitting out here
No,
watching
I'm not.
this. It makes me cringe.
That's
true. So I just think getting through the second, first of all, if you survive training camp, that was one season, just to get through that.
Yeah.
4 preseason games and just getting
The
beat up.
grind. The grind.
Yeah,
It's the grind.
but that's kind of what we fed off. That was our bravado. It's like we're gonna, and Jimmy said this all the time. He's like, we're gonna go out and kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
So that really kind of put, it's like we were able to overcome the 105-degree weather outside and temperatures and just
And
banging
that was Jimmy's
surviving.
design. That was by
Yeah,
design. That's exactly
that's
what he
survival
wanted.
of the fittest,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And so when we played in a game like that, where we were defense, the offense wasn't clicking that day, we're out there for like a 12-play series. I guess that really kind of built us to be able to survive that.
Yeah.
But I think that, and the third thing, the most important thing of that. So we're going to do a regular season, but there's a couple of games in there that you got to win to either get first round bye or to.
It's treated as a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it starts. You got
The
you
Emmitt
know.
Smith game. Didn't
Yeah,
work like that.
you know what you got to do to
Yeah.
to what you need your goals.
And it's usually a division
Yes.
game.
yeah,
It's usually a
in
division game.
East, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like we're playing for something.
Yes.
Oh man.
One, we don't like each other. Two, this is the difference between how we're going to be seated in the
That's
playoffs,
right.
right?
That's
That's
right.
exactly right.
So, and then obviously we were ready for that, and once we got to the playoffs, I mean, the first time we won, it was just one of these things we did the same regiment, what Jimmy wanted us to do, and the coaches and the players, and I think that was the best thing about us. We had, Preston, you asked about why a team like Dallas can't get over the hump of winning the playoffs and not playing in the NFC Championship or Super Bowl in 28, 20, 30 years, is that guys had a clutch gene. Where they knew that they there was a third down and situation where we need to get off the field. We got a pass rush. And Everson Wells, Everson Walls. I'm sorry, Everson Walls either broke up a pass or intercepted and made a big play to kind of pivot the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it comes down to is guys understanding that under pressure, man. That's the thing about it, is like you gotta really like to play under pressure.
That's right.
Some guys can and some guys can't, but they kind of live for that moment.
Yeah.
I look at this team and besides them not really having what they need in the clutch, I also look at this part of that part of the season when they make the playoffs. To me, that's where real coaching comes into play. That's what I see, because there were small things that Wanstead probably did for you guys that put you in position to have that confidence.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
But with this team, I think when you look at the lack of production,
You didn't play out of your element. They didn't put you in an element that wasn't your element.
they didn't make you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right. And to me, it seems like
Yes.
as soon as the Cowboys step on the field, coaches and players, they look uncomfortable. They don't. They're not ready to
Wow.
make that third down play. When Dak and CD were tripping last season, and he threw a couple of bad passes to CD. Now CD's over there pouting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew it was over then. It was over
Yeah,
then.
in the
They're out
playoff
there
game, you're
pouting with each
absolutely
other.
right.
On the
It's the
sideline.
first two
It's
drives.
like this is the biggest
and
game
you're
of the year.
already panicking. And I'm like, wait a minute. When there's like, it's no way a wide receiver and a quarterback should be at odds after two drives.
And Everson,
the-
and
Go ahead,
Everson,
Nick.
real quick. I didn't see CD and Dak have any arguments at all through the regular season.
No, not
I
at
saw
all.
Nobody.
Nothing.
Things were going well. They weren't
And then all of a sudden, here we go, and Dak's trying to talk
Exactly.
to him over his shoulder,
Yeah.
and he's blowing
Yeah.
him off like, "Oh, wait a minute, man! You
That's
can't
when-
blow off your quarterback right now."
I was with
That's when the quarterback just grab you and
was
say, "Hey,
odd.
dude, you
Yeah.
need to get on the
Right,
same page."
Right. My,
And there has some
my
respect.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
my bad. Let's get this together.
Yeah,
and
but-
it seemed like he's walking away, and Dak's yapping over his shoulder, and like, I don't
Yeah.
want to hear it.
It's
It
like that
happens so fast.
that nonverbal, the body language you
There
have
you
on
go.
the field.
That was the
I
body
mean, it could be
language.
it
It
could be
sure
very perceived totally different. But yeah, guys get upset and it's
Yeah.
like, look,
Yes.
we're in a big game, man.
Yeah,
we got to
let's
come
go.
together.
I still need you. I still
Yeah.
need you.
You guys
great
and me
point.
watching TV, even if the sound's down, you can see those guys. You can see. You just mentioned it. Body language.
Yes,
You
their
can
demeanor.
tell what's going on.
You were
Should-
absolutely
here's
right.
Another question.
And they're smart
for you.
about. They understand that the cameras are on them. You know what I mean?
He didn't care. He did not
don't care.
Yeah.
A coach.
True, Tony.
I know this. Mike Ditka would have jumped all over somebody on the sideline as a coach.
Oh heck yes.
Should a coach have stepped in to that particular scenario? And I get to saying that because I want to talk about coaches. Do they make a difference?
That's a good question.
That is a
good
great
question.
question.
We had Tom Landry who headed up everything. Different kind of coach altogether. Very studious,
Yeah,
wore the hat.
to bring him into this situation, it was unique even back then.
Yeah,
how
back
unique he
then.
was. That's not fair to the other coaches in regards to your
Unique
observation.
guy,
Yeah.
all together.
Yeah.
For me, he was a savior of my
Yes.
career.
Hey, by the
son-
way, you saved his career too, because when you
Mutual
came
thing.
here, I remember you toasting the Rams. I remember you had this influence on
Teddies.
Ron Springs. I see. He was
Yes.
what he did was kind of revolutionized thing, and that's Tom's deal too. Tom realized that you could take the linebackers on third down. That was a whole different element at that time. I was a kid, and I realized at the time, man, we've never seen a running back besides Mitchell with the Colts.
Yeah, that's true.
Besides
Yeah.
doing what you did in regards to exploiting the third down situation.
That was the beginning of the so-called slot
That's
receiver.
right. That's right.
Okay, I'm the guy who started that through Tom Landry.
And
Okay.
well, I still got to say, when you left, that's what Ron Springs did. 75
Right in there.
catches in
Ron and I were
1981.
fairly close,
75
not as
catches
close
as
as
a
you
fullback
guys.
in 1981. That was because
Ron's
he
a fan
followed
favorite.
what you
Crazy.
did. He followed what you
Absolutely.
did. Yeah.
Ron was a good
Number
guy.
20.
We weren't as close as you guys were, the two of you, but Ron and I were fairly close. He and Dorsett, Tony, were closer.
Yeah, that was
They,
Well, that
they
was
were,
that
they
was
were
an
an
age
item,
thing,
but,
right?
but Ron was
He said an
funny.
idol.
Timmy Newsom
funny
too.
guy.
Tim Newsom. Tim Newsom was there.
I couldn't put Tim in that, but Tim tried his best to learn from what Springs and Newhouse was doing. But Ron was a little bit more special than Tim was. In
You
regards to
guys
ability.
had a
Oh,
different
yes.
kind of
Ron
coach,
was amazing.
head coach. And you just mentioned him a little while ago. Tom Landry here, Jimmy Johnson here. Totally different kind of coaches.
Yeah.
But they all had that same one something that could bring players together for that common goal. They had that. Jimmy was a different kind of guy.
He was a different guy. Totally different.
Totally different.
And it's interesting, those guys are both Hall of Fame coaches, and they all had success. And I think you ask about does coaching matter now? I think I would kind of look at it as the philosophy that we play under. would that matter? Or would that work? Because it's totally different. But I think you need someone. And I think that for us, we had leaders in the locker rooms. When if it got to Jimmy, then something was wrong.
Yes, yes.
You got a bigger problem, right?
Yes.
So I think that's kind of the notion that we live by, that this is what we're going to handle this, because we know if Jimmy, if he gets wind or we have a bad practice or things aren't going away, he's going to deal with it a whole different way, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of now. I think it's just so different for Dallas because it just. Again, the brand, the marketing, the team that they're on, the contracts are so big. But what bothers me is they talk about it, but they don't do anything about it.
Right.
It's not proactive enough to okay, don't tell me what the fans and what people want to hear. Go out there and do it yourself. And I understand it's like me against us against the world, but ultimately I think you have to have some. Whatever a coach says, like Landry and like Coach Johnson, there's the way that they were able to get to someone's football soul. They didn't have to embarrass you, but you knew it was an indirect
Jimmy would
comment towards you.
Jimmy would embarrass you.
And Jimmy would say it regardless. But he was very calculated, and he knew when it needed to be done. And I think that even when we won the back-to-back Super Bowls, he just felt like, hey, you guys. This is a new year. You guys haven't done anything.
That's right. That was what was good about you.
Yeah, he just grounded you, humbled you. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way.
He would send the message.
People don't play with a lot of humility now sometimes, or aren't humbled. They just feel like they're trying to get as much as they can without the big games and the expectations of what this franchise, what it built itself on.
Yeah. I think the difference between then and now. Well, the owners, first of all, stayed out of the way. The owners let the coaches coach. Even when Jimmy was here and he and Jerry were having their little battles, Jimmy still spoke louder than Jerry because he was the head coach. The owner, Cowboys at the time, Clint Murchison, he let Tom
Landry
be part of it. And
and
here was Tom's thing. Tom was really management. Yeah. Tom was not just a head coach. Tom was part of management, something that he would never want to admit if he was still alive, because he knew the contracts of every player. They went over that stuff. Tom knew how to regulate and be a manager and be a head coach. And what they would do was, Jimmy was by fear. Jimmy coached by fear. Let's just be real.
Oh, yeah.
When he cut that young man from, I think it was University of
about John Roper?
He cut the running back. The running back.
Oh, Corbin Swinton.
Around
Richards.
Christmas.
The guy that fumbled?
Yes.
He got
In
more.
the
He didn't get his Christmas bonus.
Yeah,
he didn't even get that turkey.
And that was a message to the team. Hey, I will still cut any one of you guys.
I mean, we were talking about turkey. I remember used to tell the rookies, hey, to go down to Tom Thumb and you get a free turkey. They fell for it every time. They go down here like, hey, I'm here to get my turkey. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Anyway, you got my turkey? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. You're Jimmy, there's so many stories. The time we got beat by Washington and he canceled dinner on the flight home.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like people ask him, what was your Wannstedt? It's like, guys, Jimmy, they got to eat because they need to know what it feels like to lose. I'm like, be realistic. But I mean, it's just a totally different.
Jimmy let you know about consequences. There are going to be consequences if you lose.
Yeah.
There are going to be consequences. And he showed y'all that. With Tom did the same thing, but it was a little more quiet, more subtle. You look up, and Ron Springs used to call it that whisper jet. You get one player, he's on that whisper jet, he's out of here. I said, why you call it whisper jet? Because no one knows it's gone. You can't even hear it.
Or he would get guys like Mike Ditka, Ernie Staudter to be the henchman, or be his punishment guy.
Yes,
Tom was like
very
this.
subtle, very subtle.
So he didn't handle like I would say the the harsh business of
No.
releasing a player or
No.
even say anything. He just like
Tom
let
was like
someone up.
Pontius Pilate, man.
He wouldn't
put
change
that
his
off on
demeanor at
somebody
all.
else. Yeah.
Every once in a blue moon, he might do that with a quote special player, but most of
Yeah.
it came from other people. Tex Rim, Gil Brandt, other people in the
They
organization.
whisper in your ear.
Uh,
It's just
you,
a whisper.
It's like
You're right.
You
you need
mentioned
to pack
Tom
your stuff up and
and his kind of management capabilities. He was
Yeah.
involved in some contract negotiations. When I first came down here, I won't even tell you what I was making. It wasn't very much.
Yeah, we know.
But I said to Gil Brandt, who was the negotiator for the Cowboys at the time, I said to him, I need to have enough money to cover my move, to get my family down here. So I asked him for a $5,000 raise. Gil didn't want to do it.
We never did.
Gil was a tough man, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Tough negotiator. $5,000 even back then
Yeah.
wasn't very much.
Yeah.
You know, so I was still sitting in Gil Brandt's office, and he said, "No, I can't do this. Why don't you hold on for a moment?" That kind of attitude. So he walks out, and if you remember where the Cowboys' offices were in that office building down there off Central,
Twin 60s.
he went into what was the name?
Twin 60s.
Twin Six.
Yeah, Twin 60,
That was it.
60, yeah.
So he goes into Tom's office, and I could hear a little bit of what was being said. Of course, my ears are, right on it anyway.
yeah, you
And I
had to
could
hear
hear-
that whisper, right?
It wasn't really a whisper. Anyway, made me lose my train of thought.
sorry.
there.
I'm sorry. I'll shut
You
up.
can hear it up, yeah.
Tom said, or Gil says to Tom, well, he wants this and he wants that, and there was a little silence between his words and his next spoken words, and Tom said something like this, pretty close to it. Well, give it to him. Management.
Awesome.
Tom Landry.
He's management.
That's the way he
That's
was.
the way he was.
As opposed to Jimmy. Jimmy would get it done in a different fashion, a different way.
Right.
That's why I say these two different kinds of head coaches that got it done.
But if you compare it to now,
Right.
players are making so much money now, which is what you alluded to.
Yeah.
And to me,
Difficult.
I guess if I was a coach, it really wouldn't make much of a difference because I still have to communicate with you as an individual. Yes, let's say CD Lamb. Yes, you're making a lot of money, but still, you got to listen to me
Right.
as a coach.
Gotta have
And
that respect.
That respect.
Right.
Don't blow me off.
Yeah.
Don't go into a playoff game, and I don't have you understanding the magnitude of what's going
Right.
on right now. Not just the fact that it's a playoff game, the fact that, let's just be real, it's the Dallas Cowboys. If we lose,
Right.
then there's going to be major backlash as opposed to the difference if Baltimore lost. Everyone's surprised about that. But
Right.
they're not going to
Right.
get the kind of crap that the Cowboys are going to get for losing in the first round.
That's
That's just you
bad.
need to
losing bad.
you need to understand that
Yeah.
as a player. So
Yeah.
your reputation
So true,
is at
Everson.
hand here. And I don't think the coach that they have right now really makes them understand the magnitude. Yeah, you got Dak understands it. You probably have a few guys understand it. Zeke probably understand it. But man, we need to, as a whole, and that's what Jimmy was good at. As a whole, we need to understand what's going on and the magnitude of not just what happens if we win, but the magnitude of what happens if we lose. You got to understand the
Does
consequences.
Jerry? Do you think
Right.
Jerry gets too much blame for what has happened, not being able to win?
I think Jerry gets in the way.
Yeah.
That's all. I do because
Well,
you
yeah.
ask a coach something, and a coach will say something. The head coach, he says something to the media. Then they go to Jerry. Jerry undermines everything he
something
says.
totally different.
That's the whole new dynamic that they have right now.
Yeah, that's that
Jimmy would
ownership.
not allow that. Jimmy would not allow that. And
We
that
saw
is
what
on
happened.
Jerry.
We saw what happened. when Jimmy-
That's why he was
That's
gone.
why what
Exactly.
happened
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Jimmy was
Hey,
not
Tony,
about to allow that.
Tony.
And on the other side, Jerry wasn't about to let Jimmy take over
So
that area.
see you later. See you later. That's basically what he
why
said.
here's a comparison for you. Dak, CD, 136 million, 110 million. I don't know what was it. CDs was over only 4 years, which is to me is like crazy. Dak's was like over 10 years. But to compare what one guy or maybe two now on the Cowboys roster are making to when we played, not necessarily you guys, I don't know what you made, but for when I played, when I was with the Cowboys, Steelers, and with the Baltimore Colts, our whole damn roster didn't make anywhere near what these one guys are making right now.
Not too many.
Our whole roster.
Even back in the 90s when I played and when my career, it's just amazing how everything fast forward and it's the magnitude of the NFL and the salaries.
Yeah.
And I think that's tough. I think it'd be tough for some coaches to. I don't think they would admit it. To have to coach someone like Everson Walls who's making, $35 million a year, you're making $5 million. Even the dynamic. I just think that there's got to be a trust. To your point about the ownership getting in the way. It's like, hey, don't ask me. It's like, when I had my kids, it's like whenever they were young growing up, they knew that if they asked me, that it'd be a different consequence in my wife or vice versa.
Yes.
It's like I'm going to go ask Dad, and Dad would say, "Okay, it's cool." Well, you don't want to go up the chain of command and deal with the owner.
Right.
And I always felt like that was the way the process.
You think Jerry should make it known that my head coach makes the decision?
I mean,
and that's the way it
at
always
least tell
was.
and maybe behind the doors, maybe he's making that, and maybe that but as you mentioned, when someone else is saying something totally different than what the head coach is saying, that undermines him, but it also loses respect for the players towards the coach.
There you go.
Now, guys, I have a question for you, though. As a GM for Jerry Jones, do you think he sometimes unfairly gets, for instance, he's been to 3 straight years we've won 12 games in a row. And we haven't did that since 92, I think through the 92 through the 94 season of 12 wins.
Right.
Do we put the blame on Jerry Jones, or at some point do we have to put the on the players? I mean, when you get to 12 wins, and we had a coach, and another question I have for Tony and Everson, because you're defensive players, did you mind the fact that Dan Quinn was coaching up from the box instead of coming down and being on the sideline with you guys? What would you guys have liked that, having your defensive coordinator out up in the box, or would you have liked him down on the sideline, getting into people's face like Mike Zimmer, which that's why I'm so excited Mike Zimmer's here? Do you like the fact that he coached from that sideline up in the box instead of being on the sideline? What do you think about that? And did that affect us last year? Him getting ready to go to the Redskins, him doing some defensive calls that he didn't do all year long. I mean, literally, our defensive scheme was completely different in that playoff game. And he already knew having that thing with the Redskins. So, I mean, through the Commanders. So, what do you feel about that, real quick, boys, on the fact that he did it from the box and he didn't do it from the sideline? Do you think there's anything into that?
To me, it didn't matter where he did it from. His personnel in that game was not going to stop anyone.
Absolutely true.
That's my thing. He
safeties as
I'm
linebackers.
sure he's not crazy. He understood that playing a dime package against a heavy running team like the Green Bay Packers.
But
To
Aaron
me,
Jones,
I think he knew that we had a tough chance anyway. And I've said this before in regards to the Cowboys. I've said this before. At this point, you have a defense depending on your offense. That's just not the way it goes.
Exactly.
Especially when you're
Great
talking
point.
about the playoffs. You got to say defense. Go out there and set the tone. You don't
Yes,
say
sir.
offense. Go out there and score. Then we got your back. That's just not how it goes. And you don't. As a good defense, you don't play off of your offense. Hey guys, I hope y'all go out there and score the first time, or at least the second time, because we can't hold them off. Because
Right.
they knew they weren't going to be able to hold them off. So when you look at
Right.
that situation, it was a personnel thing for Dan Quinn. I don't care if he would have been out on the field himself. That
Right.
defense still was not going to stop Green Bay from scoring whenever they needed to score.
Right. Well,
That's
whose
just my
fault-
opinion.
Whose fault on that aspect of not having linebackers? Because obviously we had strong safeties, and we had like Darren Woodson's. No, not as great as Darren Woodson. What a stud.
Yeah, let's
We were
stop. Let's
having
stop.
Safeties. No, we were having safeties though coming up playing a middle linebacker spot.
can't.
The size of
They
one.
can't.
And whose fault was that?
Well-
Did Dan Quinn kind of push that issue?
Well, I think going into the game, you knew that you had issues. Depending, you got Leighton
Yeah.
Vander Esch was out.
Yep.
You know, the linebacker
there,
position
Leighton.
was really
You got one linebacker.
yeah,
You have
and the
one
guy that you
linebacker.
want to ask to do, he's not going to
Right.
do it.
Yeah,
I don't think
Damone
Micah
Clark,
Parsons
he
is
was
going
young.
to play. He's like, I'm going to play on the edge.
We're going to talk about
Right.
that.
So I think you may have had the personnel, but asking guys to do something totally different.
Right.
I don't think that they were willing to do that.
They couldn't do
exactly.
that.
Physically, they couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
And they were just overmatched. But
Yeah.
look, if you're bad at coaching, bad on defense that day, and bad on the offense, I mean, nothing was good.
You're going to get beat.
There was nothing, and,
Right.
and that was the biggest disappointment. It's like you had all this time, the preparation, and the team comes in, you're a heavy favorite, and you just lay down.
Yeah.
Well, when he
Yeah, that
started,
was
you were asking about
shocking.
whose fault
The
that was.
physicality of it.
Yeah.
My thing is, you didn't gather the personnel that you needed all year long. We went with this defense all year long, and we were lucky to win 12 games. It's simply
Right.
because our offense was so good.
Yeah.
To me,
Great point,
I mean, Will
Everson.
McClay, hell of a
personnel
guy.
director,
hell of
yeah.
a personnel director.
Yes, he
Thank you.
is.
But somehow they could never find the linebackers they needed all year long. They
Right.
couldn't find it. They brought in Rashad Evans, I believe his name was. He
Yes.
gave up a couple of plays, and they're like, "Oh, he's out." I don't know if they gave him a fair shot or not, but your bar for expectations was lowered
Yeah.
a little bit because you couldn't
Yes.
find true linebackers. So what's
And
the first
Bobby
thing we
Wagner
did with
was out
Zimmerman?
there.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner was out there where we could have went and got him at that point, and we
But
did not. Yeah.
they couldn't find. It's as if they couldn't find time to indoctrinate them into the defense, and I don't know why that came about. But that's why
Yes.
the first thing they did this year with Zimmer, we got linebackers.
Yeah, you got
Okay.
linebackers,
Yeah.
you got defensive
Eric
linemen.
Kendricks,
I don't think
yes.
they had either in that game.
There you go.
There's where we're going
Yeah,
to
you're
start this
right,
conversation
Tony.
here going forward. Defensive linemen, pass rushers, linebackers. What is Micah Parsons?
That is a good question.
Special.
He's got a great podcast.
He won't
Says a
tell
lot
us.
of
Maybe
things
we
on
need
it,
to
I can
ask
tell you
him.
that.
But
Man,
now-
I love Micah. I love watching him play, and maybe just the
Everybody
comparison.
knows Micah. I love Micah.
He's a playmaker.
Tony,
You do
and he's
too.
held on every play. I mean, if you go back and you look at all the plays, I mean, I know you can say that about everybody, Charles Haley, everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but when you look at it, Micah Parsons was held almost every single play.
Yeah, but that's.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're not holding, you're not going to have a
ain't
job
trying.
in the NFL.
Nice.
If you
Yeah,
ain't
they're going to
trying,
miss
you
calls
ain't
like that, and nothing. I mean, I would hold
They
Micah
missed calls
Parsons.
and
I
they
would
got
tackle
away
him,
with it. That's
right?
all you can say.
If I'm not going to get caught, if he's going to beat me, I'm going to hold his ass,
Heck
right?
yeah.
But it was
He
just.
didn't get the calls though. He did not get. I think it went like 10 games or 11 games without even having a holding call, and I'm watching 2 and 3 guys literally drag him.
Oh
with
no, they
their
got
arms
him by
down.
the neck. He's by the
Yeah,
neck. They
yeah,
got-
especially against the
yeah.
Dolphins. I,
Yeah.
mean, I can name the Eagles.
But Nathan,
Maybe he should have
but-
said something nice to the official before the game.
Yeah, if they didn't call it, they weren't holding.
Yeah.
And if they
They
were
got
holding
played.
that much, shame on the officials.
hold
And
every
we know
time.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think with
good
Micah, do you want him at the defensive end position where he's very dynamic, or do you want him sitting back as a linebacker in the middle where he's got to deal with guys that's over 300 plus pounds? So, I mean, he's not
point.
unique in that
That's
regard.
a
He
good
got to
point.
pick his poison,
Yeah.
whichever.
Right.
We have to pick it for him, I believe. We could be situational and use him in the run situation.
That's what
in
I
the
think they're
middle,
gonna do.
And then on third down, we put him at the end. But I don't know. I've never really heard anyone say this, but I see what I see. There are times when Micah Parsons doesn't show his intellect. there are some big games where Michael Parsons needs to be less reactive and more proactive.
Bingo.
Interesting.
He has.
Wow.
He has.
Discipline.
I've seen him go for the RPO. You got to set the edge. You
Yep.
can't go down there and make that tackle because when that quarterback pulls it out,
So smart.
not only will he have a chance to make a play, but sometimes they have a running back
Yeah.
who he can pitch it to,
Yeah.
and you have just given up the edge. He did that. He does that in the games that we don't play well. He does that in the playoff games where
He's
we
trying
really
to make. He's
need it.
trying to make a big play
Trying to make a big play.
and sacrificing the
integrity of the defense.
Yeah, and just the
Trust your
offense is
defense.
up, trying to
Right.
go upfield, knowingly they're going to set you up, and that's what teams do.
You got to know that.
Yeah, you just
gotta
want to react, and you want to make the big play, knowingly like, okay, someone else will make the big play. I got to set the edge. I got to keep contained and force it back inside.
Got to. I have to.
Great
And
teamwork right there.
And now what bothered him, though, was, once again, the person that's at linebacker now is a strong safety. So now that strong safety is going up against a guard or a tackle.
Yeah, that's
so
not
he
gonna
feels
work.
he has to go down and help when really you got to trust the defense.
Yeah.
Because now you're giving up the outside because you're trying to prevent something.
And,
from
I like
Great
I
point.
like
Great point.
I like Zim. I mean, I
was gonna
played
ask.
I love
and I
Coach
think
Zimmer.
he's a guy that
you
it's,
play for that's right.
Yeah,
that's
he was
right,
at the
of course,
Cowboys
of course,
as a
of course.
defensive.
Yes.
He was a defensive back coach. Campo was the D coordinator, or Wanstead was the D coordinator in the first year. But anyway, I liked what he has set up. He's kind of set the table, defensive line, kind of make it a little easier to create some depth.
He's
And
got
really
some bigger guys.
bigger guys,
now.
man.
and
Yeah.
bringing guys
Yes.
in, the guys he knows. I don't know how that's gonna end up.
Yeah.
whether
It
it's
can't
gonna
be
work.
worse, Tony.
But he's got some familiarity with
That's
his
true,
personalities,
Everson.
like guys that he knows are going to play in his system, what the expectations.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that he's going to find out with Micah. It's like you got to trust what we're doing. You're going to get your plays, right? You're going to get your big plays, your sacks, your numbers, and everything. You're going to get paid.
Yes.
Just trust the system. And I think that sometimes guys take advantage of guys like, maybe Dan Quinn was like, hey, we'll design these plays for Mike and let him go make plays. But
Right.
whenever he was sacrificing some of the calls when they needed him at different times.
That's
Which
a
once
mistake
again, that
that
don't
Yeah.
work in the
coaches make.
playoffs.
Does it?
You can't
That
hug
don't
them all
work in
the
the
time, right? Even with your own children, you can't hug them all the time, and they keep making the same old mistakes
Right.
that is going to eventually hurt them. On the
Right.
Cowboys
Hurt
case,
us.
and lose games.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you have to do? Dan Quinn would have had to take his arm from off of around those guys,
Right.
do a
Let me
little
give you a
bit of
hug.
what
Would you,
Jimmy Johnson would do.
would you please not go upfield when they're going to play
Come
outside?
on.
Please, let's play.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I'm sure
Get
when he
in
first
his
came
face.
to
Exaggerate a
town,
little bit,
he
but,
and Michael Parsons sat down in the room together. If they didn't, then this was warranted. He and Michael Parsons sit down in the room together and let's look at all your plays.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure that had to have happened. Dude, you're my dude. Michael Parsons, you're my dude.
Yeah,
the
you're
man.
my
Let's
dude.
sit down
Yeah.
right now, guy. I'm coming in. You're my guy. I'm Zimmer.
Right.
Let's sit down and look at what you did last year or didn't do.
Right.
And I
Well,
think
guys,
Micah's that guy that could
Right.
take that. I think
Yeah.
he's thick-skinned enough to take
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think so, but during the Green Bay game, I just remember you go back and look at that game. It was horrible. But guys are getting.
He didn't make a play.
Guys are getting combo block. Guys are just it was
Yep.
at times it looked unsound because they were just desperation, and it just got worse.
That's right.
And Tony, real quick too, real fast on this. And last year, we really didn't have a grade 1 technique with Mozzie Smith coming in, not producing in that
So
role.
true.
Man, that
But
guy's
this
that
year-
kid's he's got to hit it this year.
He does.
Yeah. You gotta step up.
agree. But this year, we're going out getting Linval Joseph, 6'4", 328. Jordan Phillips,
Jordan Phillips,
6'6", 330. So I think this year we did something that we really didn't do last year and shore up, any one tech. I mean, we had Hankins last year, a little injury prone, a little bit here and there. But I think right now, what makes this team a little different maybe going in than last year, besides linebackers like we were talking about, Eric Kendricks, but I think the size that we have on this defensive line this time
Sure.
is something that we lacked last year. And if we would have nipped it in the bud last year, I think we could have played stop. I mean, every game we lost last year, if we look at it, the Niner game, they just ran down our throats.
Well,
The
you
Bills
stopped the
game,
run.
Let's
the
be
Bills
let's be
game,
clear now.
Cook,
let's be clear.
Yes.
Those guys that we brought in, both of them around 30 over 35, 36 years old.
Yeah.
So that's something
No, that's
that
good.
we have to smartly work them into the
That's right.
rotation
That's
right. Right,
with,
that's a
with
good
the
point.
young man that you just talked
Yeah,
about.
Mozzie, I think for
Mozzie,
him,
yeah.
I saw him this
That's a good
last
point,
year. I just didn't seem like he couldn't grasp what it was like
Oh,
to
no,
be
he
an
didn't know what the
NFL
hell he was
player.
doing. He did not know
And there
what
was
he
so
was
much expectation from being highly drafted from Michigan.
A number 1 draft choice.
Right.
Yeah,
Cowboys.
and then you saw him, and it's just like
Yep.
you got to move
Yeah.
laterally. It's
Yes.
almost like he just didn't want to. He wasn't into the game.
He
of football.
just didn't look like he cared.
Exactly.
Sonny.
It wasn't
That's
lazy.
it.
And
I
I mean,
don't say lazy,
he
but
even
it's
said
just
the only
that.
reason why he plays football is because he likes to hit people. Well, go knock the hell out. But maybe I understand there's some kids that come in from college and need a little bit. You know, you got to like move them along a little slower,
Yeah,
let them develop.
yeah.
I mean, we all have gone through that.
Yeah.
But when you're incumbent, man, you have to. There's got to be this urgency, and there's
Yeah.
some plays, and I think that's why I've just kind of, lack of better words, I'm a big Mike Zimmer fan because he will put you in a position. They run the same defense we ran back in the '90s.
I hope so.
And it's a lot easier, and the one technique, and you got a chance to make plays. You got to be disciplined, but once you play discipline and your responsibility, then you go make a play.
Well,
And I think Mozzie, for him, they need him to really come through this year.
To me,
You're
it's
100%
not
right,
only
Tony.
the physical parts of it, but it's up
Absolutely.
here, attitude-wise. And they also brought in another guy that I think will be extremely helpful for the defensive line, coaching staff. This guy named Jeff Gozina,
Zanina, yes.
defensive line coach.
Okay.
New one, okay. That's why they're
That guy's
also
jacked up,
bringing in
man.
bigger guys, and he came from Washington.
Okay.
Think about the defensive linemen, especially tackles, that Washington.
That was
Oh,
their
yeah.
strength.
Well, they had
that was their
the
strength.
whole front four was first
Yeah.
round draft picks.
Very,
Yeah.
they were
that's right.
nasty.
First round draft
They got a
choices.
great defensive front.
And they were good.
Yes,
and
they
they were good. Okay. Also, you guys will remember this name. Former Dallas Cowboy is now an assistant defensive line coach, Greg
Yep.
Greg
Ellis.
Ellis.
That's
Big
a
9'8".
So that's gotta help.
very underrated
defensive
but
line
very
and
important
run game.
defensive line. He's a lot like he reminds me of Jim Jeffcoat.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Greg Ellis
I agree.
he was a bad boy.
Yeah.
And
Tough.
Greg Ellis took
Tough.
some heat only because Randy Moss, they passed on Randy Moss. We didn't hear about that. But Greg Ellis, I still just
Solid.
such a phenomenal
He was
player.
solid.
Oh, he was-
Yeah.
Solid.
Greg
Great
Ellis
dude,
was
too.
extremely solid.
That's why I compare him to Jeffcoat. Two guys that
absolutely.
they came in kind of, they were you would look at them as you might look at them as
That's a
underwhelming.
great comparison.
But no, they were
Yeah.
solid, and Jim Jeffcoat made some of the biggest plays that they
did.
needed
In
to
the
make.
biggest games too.
Yes.
He
He was
huge,
consistent,
big
man.
game player.
Well, Greg Ellis played 11 seasons with the Cowboys and went on to. He was a head coach at several
Colleges, that's correct.
So that's why he's with the Cowboys now. His knowledge, his experience, his ability to coordinate and pass on his knowledge,
Yes.
and his being a head coach, knowing how to kind of communicate with players.
Maybe-
Smith might be the one person that Greg Ellis was brought in here to help.
Yeah.
I would disagree. I'm
Okay.
hoping it's Michael
Okay.
Parsons. I'm
Well,
hoping he setting that edge. I'm hoping it's
See, it
Yeah,
depends-
I
to me,
think
it
I
depends
agree
on
with
where
you
they-
on that.
It depends on where they put him when.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's the
Yes.
question. What are they going to? They
That's
said they're going
right.
to make him more like a linebacker and stand up with
Right.
instead of his
Yes.
his hand down on the ground. I mean, you're not going to run around every guy every time, and that's
That's
to
right.
me. You see him get wore down at the end of the season.
That's why I think they're bringing in bigger guys in the middle. Okay.
Yes.
The tackles, because
Yes.
Mike is going to have to play outside linebacker
and
sometime.
stop dipping inside. The big
Stop
boys
dipping
got it.
inside.
Stop dipping inside. You just said
so
the
it's,
edge.
it's going to be
Everson,
critical
that's so smart,
for
so true.
Mike Zimmer to lead the Cowboys towards more like what you guys experienced, because you had the tackles, you had the guys on the outside, and you had the unknown linebackers.
Yeah.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes left.
Well, look what he did while he was at Minnesota as a head coach, and when he was at Cincinnati as a
Exactly.
coordinator.
Right.
They're pretty consistent.
Pretty
on
solid.
Except for the
defensive
40
side.
that we put on them.
Yeah, that's true.
I love that one.
I
was
forgot
fun.
about that.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Overall, though,
Overall, they're
yeah.
pretty sound.
pretty solid team.
Consistent.
Okay, quickly, we got about 5 minutes left in here. What do you think about the Cowboys' record coming up? What are you thinking? Any guesswork here?
You know what? I look at the NFC East. I don't know what happened to Philly last year. I mean, they had their own problems, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at Washington. I think Washington's going to be better. Depends on the quarterback play. And the Giants, you see Daniel Jones still
Still
doing
Daniel
it in the
Jones. Still Daniel
preseason,
Jones.
making some
Yeah,
big
he
money,
was
right?
Daniel
bad.
Jones.
So I
Bad.
think Dallas. I like what they've done on defense. I will have to see the product on the field. You know, they signed CD. I think that the Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle. I mean, they're going to have.
Great pickup.
But I don't know. I think the whole narrative has been, what are they going to do in the postseason? And that's where we've gotten with this team, right? Because this team has won 12 games in the last, and they're good in the regular season.
It's straight
But
years.
everything,
Started out in the first
unfortunately for
round.
them, everything's measured on what they do in the postseason.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. That's
So,
true.
can they win 12 games? Yeah, I think they can. You look at their schedule. I mean, but
Yeah.
the NFC East is the NFC East. But I think they can win 12 games. Again, I'm just like everyone else. What are you going to do in the postseason?
But,
It's the start for them.
as far as I'm concerned, I don't care how many wins they have. I think they'll win the East. That I believe.
Right. I agree.
I want a team that I don't give a damn how many touchdowns CD and Dak have. I want our defense to set
Yes.
the tone
Yeah.
for the
Amen.
entire season.
Stop
I want
the
us
run.
to have I want us to stop the run as well as have a running game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hate putting all of that
YDS.
on your quarterback and your wide receivers because that can be negated. It can be nullified.
Couldn't run the
Think
football last
Delvin
year.
Cook
But
will
a
help
running
that?
game travels, guys. A running game travels,
Do you think
and it's
Delvin
playoff.
Cook will help
And
that?
it controls the
know,
clock.
they
It
just
keeps
signed
the
him.
They
good
just
quarterbacks
signed.
off the
I
field.
think that's going to be a hell of a sign. Let me say this: depending on what his injury was,
Shoulder.
and depending on how well we block, I think Dalvin Cook could really be a game changer.
And you can't compare it to when he was at the Jets because you didn't have a
Forget
quarterback.
the Jets. Forget
No
the Jets.
Well, that's all,
offensive line.
my
I'm with
point
you.
being,
I'm
people
with
are like,
you.
oh,
I'm
well,
with you.
well
Aaron
you
Rodgers
didn't have a
is hurt.
quarterback.
Yeah.
So all you're
That
going
was
to
a
do.
disaster.
Right,
That was a disaster.
right.
You're
Right
talking
on the
about,
money.
yeah, Aaron Rodgers was hurt. That was a disaster. I think
Well, he
Dalvin
was hurt,
Cook
too.
could be, I think Dalvin Cook, yes, he just had his shoulder surgery. I think Dalvin Cook, I can't see him being a guy afraid to run the ball because he's that good. I think if we give him blocking, if Tyler can come out there and open up some holes for us, and we've got Steele, I mean, come on,
Yes.
man. These guys, they can be
Run the ball.
a very underrated running team. Take the pressure
ball.
off of your offense and your defense.
Exactly.
Keep the
And
ball.
play action.
Play,
Get
but
Control
I'm
the
also
clock,
talking
man. Just
controlling
like-
the clock. Thank
yeah.
you.
He's
That
on
kind
the
of stuff.
practice squad right now.
Yeah.
When they're going to activate him, I don't know.
Well,
Was
long
it-
season.
Was
Long
he out
season.
of shape or something?
Well,
What happened?
I think that's what it was. He wasn't with anyone. No one signed him over the offseason.
So he was just rehabbing
he's
that
just
shoulder
rehabbing the
and all
shoulder.
that?
And he's probably learning the playbook too, Preston. Learning the playbook, giving him
Yeah.
some time
He
to
just got here.
get active out there.
He just got
get
here.
the playbook going.
If you're a veteran guy, it should not be a matter of learning the playbook. I mean, come on.
Right.
You got
Half of-
OTAs. You got
Yeah,
how many? You got plenty of time to
Got plenty
learn
of
the
time.
middle
He
aspect,
went
right?
preseason. Nothing.
And playbooks is just about nomenclature. How does one team name a certain play? And the plays are all the same.
Still the plays, yeah.
I know when I came
Is
down
this
here from
verbiage?
Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
That's all it is,
The
just
Cowboys
verbiage.
playbook was
Gotcha.
only different in that the Cowboys' right side was left side nomenclature. So that was the only
Gotcha,
difference.
Preston. Gotcha,
The
Preston.
plays were basically the same. So
Like on defense, cover three is a cover three. You can put some, but you still got to have
Name
three
it whatever
guys
you
deep. You
want,
still got to
but
have linebackers underneath.
it's,
Yeah.
it's the same thing,
Yeah.
no matter what you say about it. All right. It's been a good one, just like I
Enjoyed it.
thought it would be.
Dang,
It
that
would
was
been
fun.
even better if the other two had been with us. But we'll
I
get
don't
them
know
to
if it
come
would've
down.
We didn't need them. We didn't need them, did we, Tony?
Awesome.
Well, I'd like to have these
I like
two gentlemen
Larry. I
come
like
back.
Larry.
Larry must have got lost.
Our MVP.
He's
Larry,
lost. I don't know how he won that
That's
MVP.
your
He was
teammate.
lost,
That's
we
your
was lost all the
teammate,
time. Had to line him up.
We're talking
Number
about
two.
you,
I
Larry.
come.
All right, we got to get out of
kidding,
here.
Larry.
Want to
Love
thank
you,
my
brother.
two guests today, Tony Casillas, of course, and the great
Tony,
one, Everson Walls.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate
I
it,
did
you
too.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you to Trey.
Trey.
Thank you,
Trey,
our
thank you.
producer, Trey
Edit
Giles,
the bad
back
words
there.
out, right?
To the studio, RNPR, Real News Public Relations. You can see us and catch us, the champions, let me remind you, on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, which is Twitter, and we can also be heard on TikTok, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. We can't announce who we're going to have next week, but it might be Larry Brown and Cliff Harris. But we're glad to have you with us. We are back and looking forward to being with all of you the next time around. So, with my co-host, let us say, here we go!
Here we go. Yeah, here we go.